There we go. So over to you, Rick.
Well, thank you very much for having me, guys. I was quite honored to be able to tie for you guys. It's seeing some of your guys' stuff over the last several months. It's almost intimidating to tie for you guys because you guys are so darn good. But so just thought I'd show you a few things that that work over here in Canada, and I know will work over in well, throughout the world. So I thought I'd yeah, just share a few things with you guys. I got four flies planned. I don't know if I'll get to the fourth one, but we'll see. Because the fourth one's pretty long, pretty big one. So let's see. I'll switch over to my other camera. My apologies if it dies halfway through. I realized that all my batteries for my camera are dead, so I may end up having to switch over to my to this webcam. But I'll go from my main camera first. So I'll just have to switch over.
I'm going to just a moment, will you?
So if you other guys can mute yourselves, please.
All righty. So now, just give me a moment, and I'll get myself set up here. Like I said, I'm sorry about that. Just a couple minutes prior, my batteries died. I'm like, oh, and there it goes. Actually, there's the first battery just died already. So I'm just going to use the my webcam until the one it's charging right now. So I'll just move my webcam.
Yeah.
Again, apologies.
No, you take your time.
Technology, right? So I just got to find something to put it on. Actually, probably just do that. And then pin it right there. No, that's not going to work. Sorry, guys. I'm making you sick over there.
You're okay.
Making you sick with the camera.
Is that Eric?
I gotta go
yes, Derek.
Taller.
You having a good time over there, Eric?
Yeah, I've been having a pretty good time, working a lot, which you can imagine, but I've been out a few times. I've caught some fish on the pig doglet. I want to let you know that the American trout are easily fooled by the pig doglet. Had some good trout on the mayfly on a sulfur hatch on Spring Creek in State College in Pennsylvania. I had some rainbows and browns on a creek near my brother's place, and then I caught a couple of trout on Penns Creek. We had green drakes in the air, the hexagena, but no rising fish.
Rick.
So brilliant, been brilliant, Derek. Thank you.
Good. That's perfect, Rick.
Okay, let's get it going. So the first fly I'm going to tie you guys is kind of it's a spey type fly that I use a lot for chasing big rainbows and big cutthroat trout that are following the salmon into like in the rivers when they're spawning. So this is kind of an egg pattern, but it with a twist. It's a spey egg pattern that I use quite often. So I'm just going to start off here with this is a Tiemco TMC 7999. I usually use partridge hooks, but I ran out of the smaller ones. So I'm going to use some Semperfli Classic waxed in the bright orange or the floral red, I think it's called. And I'm just going to create a little egg section back here. Like I said, I really like using this one. I like swinging this in the rivers when the salmon are spawning, because you've got those little rainbows, well, the big rainbows, and even steelhead and cutthroat trout, sea-run cutthroats that are sitting in behind the salmon waiting for the egg. So I really like swinging these through at that. So now you can use floss if you like, if you don't want to build up the body, build up the little egg. You can use floss. I really like using this Semperfli Floral Red. When you hit this with a UV light, this stuff just pops. So now I'm just gonna build up a little bit more in the center to create more of a football, or American football, that is, shape. And like I said, you can, if you prefer to use a floss or something, that's totally fine. I really like the UV properties of this fluoro. So I'm just going to come forward just a little bit more.
What size hook was that, Rick?
This is a size 8. And like I said, I usually use partridge myself. It's the hook that I prefer. But like I said, I ran out of the smaller sizes. I've got lots of the big spey fly size for salmon and steelhead. But so that's about all I'll do. I'm just going to come forward just a bit. Just give it a whip finish. Oh, sorry guys, popped it off. And then I'm gonna cut this off, and then I'm gonna switch over to a nano silk. Doesn't matter where that thread ends up, you're all gonna get covered anyway. Gotta grab the right nano silk. I want to use white here, because now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put some marabou on and a few other things just to add the skein of the eggs. I'll cut that off. I'm going to put a little bit of right now. I'm going to put the some Gulf resin on, because I want to be able to do this now when there's no feathers in the way. Gonna let that kind of go into a little bit of an egg shape. I'm gonna put another coating on anyway. And you can see how that it just lights up this fluorescent classic waxed, just lights right up. And that's what I want. I want really want it to light up. And like I said, this works really, really well when the trout are sitting in behind those steelhead and salmon. I really like, sorry guys, turn that off. I really like using this in the fall, especially, and here when like I said, when the salmon are running. I do use it at other times as well, but when the salmon are running, it really, really works. A little bit more on the sides. Just giving it that little egg shape, right? Of a singular egg. And I tie this one in quite a few different color patterns. I'll tie it in orange, I'll tie it in red, I'll tie it even in green, and I'll use slightly different hackle. So now, what I like doing is I like taking a piece of, just piece of white hackle. And all this is going to do is help hold out the marabou. That's all it is. It's not really a necessary, like a scene part of the fly. It's more to help hold the marabou hackle out that I'm going to be putting in.
To support it.
Exactly. That's exactly, just so it helps hold it out, and then as it goes through the water, it'll pulsate, right? So now I'm going to take some Hen's Gleamy dubbing. I'm going to take the white and just create a bit of a, let's call it a thorax. It's not a thorax, but we can call it that. Yeah, and this is more just to help hold everything up and out, right? For that hackle that we're going to be putting on here. So, and I'll just do 2 or 3 wraps here. That's it. Stroke it all back. Cut off my hackle. Got a little bit of extra dubbing there. I'm just gonna cut that off. It looks, won't really matter, but you know, too often we tie for ourselves, not for the fish, right? So now I'm just gonna take one single marabou. I'm just gonna tie this in by the tip. And I like folding it over. As we all know, it just makes it a bit stronger. Cut that tip out. And you don't want too many turns here. So what I like doing is if sometimes I'll do it ahead of time, sometimes I'll do it once it's on the vise. I'll strip off the leading edge because I only want 1 or 2 turns here. I just want a hint of that, of this white. If you've ever seen salmon eggs floating down the river, especially when the fish have died and haven't actually laid their eggs, they've got these big white skeins over top of them. So I'm just doing a couple of wraps. And that'll do it. So now I'm just gonna stroke my marabou back out of the way. Just nip that off. Just nip that center because I always end up pulling a piece out. And then I take my brush, just give this a bit of a brush just in case any of that marabou is caught. Build up just a little bit of a head. Give it a whip finish.
Is there a name for that, Rick?
I just call it my my egg-spey is what it is. It's just a spey style egg pattern. So now what I'll do is I'll go to just a little bit further than my orange. Just grab all my marabou, hold it back a little bit further than my orange, and just nip that off. And that's it. That's the fly. It's extremely simple. Simple tie. Get my hair right in the front there, so just hit that. But when this gets wet, it'll look like I said, it looks like that skein that's on the salmon eggs when they're coming down, right? So it's a simple little fly, but it really works. That attractor, that orange attractor, really pops, right? Like I said, I do it in other colors as well. So I do it like in an orange, and I put a different collar on it as well. Use it more of a spey style. And same here. Longer fibers, almost like a spider, right? But this is the one that I find I probably catch, probably 60% of my fish when I'm hunting them at spawn time, when they're hunting the eggs, or they're gathering the eggs during the spawn. This is the one that works the best. So I just thought I'd share that one with you because I mean, salmon or salmon, or trout. So it doesn't matter if it's West Coast or East Coast or Europe. These should work really well when you've got trout stacked up behind the salmon eating their eggs. These will work. So
Just tie it in smaller sizes.
yes, I do tie this all the way down to about a size 12 and all the way up to about a size 6. This is a little larger. I like tying when I'm doing demonstrations. I like using the larger hooks. It's just easier for you guys to see, right? But yes, I do tie this all the way down to a size 12. And I'll tie it even onto a scud style hook instead of a spey hook, right? Or like the Hens BL $5.99. So I'm just grabbing my hook, sorry. So something like more like or a 5.10, more like these, right? I'll tie it on those all the way down to a size 12 as well. But again, some of the trout that I'm chasing with these here, we're looking at anywhere to 5 to 11 pound rainbows and cutthroats that are going after these in these some of the big rivers here, right? So that's the ones I'm targeting with these larger flies. So
You can see that when it's wet, that underbody is going to pop in it.
there you go. So
Yeah, you can see it.
right, and it just like I said, I could have maybe done one more turn, but I don't like having too many turns of the marabou. I just want that movement, like it looks like it's stuck on it, that skein, because quite often that's what you'll see is that skein, that outer layer of the eggs that hold it together in its egg sac, it's just kind of holding on and it's just flopping in the water. We do a lot of sturgeon fishing here in the Fraser River in Vancouver, and that's basically what we do is we take eggs, salmon eggs, and we'll put them in a pantyhose and wrap it up into a ball, and then I'll attach that to a hook and attach a little bit of marabou to the front, and it works like just absolutely like a charm. Get some pretty big sturgeon on that. I think my biggest when I was guiding in the Fraser, the biggest I landed actually for a guy out of just outside of London. He was here and I landed him a 12'4" sturgeon. So yeah, those are the fun ones to fight. But I've only actually heard of a couple of sturgeon caught on the fly. So yeah, so that's the first one. Hope you guys like that one. Like I said, it's pretty simple. Just simple and effective, right? Really works for what I'm using it for, right? So just gonna give it a quick clean up here, and then I will go on to my next. Doing a little bit of a variety. I was gonna do all spay flies, and I thought, we'll do some variety for you guys. Something, show you guys a little bit of what I do, what I like doing. This is probably my favorite still water damselfly pattern that I'm going to do next here. I've had so much success with this, and it's just looks so buggy. So we will get her going here. I might see if my battery's charged, because if it is, or semi-charged, it'd be nicer because this is a much smaller fly. So I'm just going to go check. Just give me 1 second. Hasn't been charging for too long, but let's just take a quick peek and see if technical difficulties. That's the norm when you're doing these, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know I just did a 3-hour one for the Saskatchewan Fly Fishers Club here, and that's actually not bad. I'll be able to use that. So I'm going to put this back up top. And we'll get onto the main camera because will be way better. This out of the way. Then we can get a nice close up. Yeah, we had a tough week of fishing here. I was out Thursday through Tuesday, and normally in the lake we go to, we're catching 30 to 40 fish per person per day, and we were doing like 12 and 14 fish. It was tough fishing, trying to figure out what they wanted. But a lot of that had to do with the smoke. Woohoo, there we go.
Oh, that's close up.
There we go. So. White fluff out of there. Just bring that out just a bit. There we go. Okay, so like I said, this is a little damsel fly that I tie quite a few of, use a lot. I like fishing these on a floating line or a type 1 sink tip, like just a short sink tip, like a 3 foot. I know Airflow makes a little 3 foot sink tip type 1. So I'm going to start off with some green nano silk. Just get it started. Like I said, I like tying. I like using a type 1 sink tip, or preferably actually a floating line. And if I'm in a boat, I'll park my boat at the shore, at the reeds, and I'll strip this slowly towards the reeds. If I'm shore fishing, well, then it's going the right way anyway. I want this to be migrating towards shore, right? So now the nice thing with this is it's pretty well one ingredient, the whole fly. So it will be hen CDC. And this one's in olive. I will use some wire just to help hold the body, but other than that, this whole fly is CDC. I really like the way it moves. I know some people think that CDC should only be used for dries, but I really like the way this moves. So just going through to find a couple of really good feathers for the tail. I actually just got this nymph tattooed on my calf a couple weeks ago. Damselfly nymph. So I want to go about the length of the body, past, so about there. So I'm just going to tie that on right there. Come back. Go under my tail just to help lift it to make sure it doesn't get fouled. Sometimes I'll add a little piece of flash here in the tail. I like this one being as natural as possible, but I do sometimes add a little bit of flash, depending. I mean, I like having, just like probably all you guys, like having multiple different versions of a single pattern. So I'll tie this in green, I'll tie this in brown, I'll tie this in a yellow. Actually, this past weekend here, the real really chartreuse, bright chartreuse damsels were one of the only flies that were working. So we use that. I'm just tying on some plastic eyes here. I don't want any weight, so I don't use dumbbell eyes. I don't use bead chain eyes. I want to leave about 2 to 3 hook eyes in front of my eyes. So I definitely want to leave quite a bit of space there, because I'm going to be using some of the CDC in a bit to build a bit of a head. And while I build the head, it's actually going to be also building the legs. So it's all kind of in one. This one actually, it's not quite centered. There we go. That's better. So now I'll take a piece of, where'd I put it? Red wire. There it is. It rolled away on me. So this is just 0.1 mil red from Semperfli. This is just to it's going to counter rib to just help hold the body together. It's not enough. Color doesn't matter. It's not going to be seen. So I just put red in case it does get seen every once in a while. It's just another, it's a contrast, right? So just tie that on, and then I'll take some of the CDC and I'm actually going to rip it off and use it as dubbing. So I'm taking it off of the feather itself, off the stem, and I'm just going to make myself a little pile. And that's what I'm going to use it just as a dub. Wax my thread. The reason I like using the CDC is for the body here is I can keep it really thin, and it's going to be a little wild. It's not going to be this perfect little noodle, right? I want it a little bit scraggly. Just I'm a firm believer in lots of movement in my flies, so I like having those little scraggly bits sticking out. Like I said, I try to keep it fairly thin. At the head here, I'll just stop. I'm gonna counter wrap my red wire. I said that's just to help hold it when the fish hit. Especially where I do a lot of my fishing nowadays, we've got a lot of browns and tiger trout, and the tigers, their teeth will just tear this stuff to shreds. So now I'm going to do a dubbing loop here.
CDC will slow the sink rate down as well, won't it?
Exactly. Well, and that's what I want. If you notice a lot of these damsels, I mean, it's oh, I just hit the camera, made it all blurry. Damsels will swim towards shore. Normally they'll migrate straight up in the water column and then migrate towards something, shore, weeds, anchor rope, whatever it happens to be, just to get out of the water. And usually they're migrating anywhere between, I usually notice anywhere between 3 and 12 inches below the surface. So I don't want this to sink. I want this to be high in the water column and a very slow minnow-like retrieve. So whatever kind of retrieve you would use for a minnow, that's what I like using for this. Right, nice and slow. But right, like I said, right below, just subsurface. If I'm noticing that they are migrating a little deeper, or if I'm catching the odd deeper fish, and doing a throat sample, and I notice that they have damsels in them, then I may change over to a type 1 sink tip. But I never use anything more than a type 1 sink tip for damsels. That's about as aggressive as I'll go. Sorry, I'm just going through my CDC trying to find the appropriate length. Couple of fibers to put into my material clip here. A little bit of wax on my thread. Just a little bit of CDC. Got a good spin. So now what I'll do is I'm going to figure 8 through the eyes and create a bit of a, like I said, a little bit of a head / legs. Sure that's tied off well. Cut off my excess of the dubbing loop. Whip finish. Obviously, I'll put some head cement on that, but I'll do that later. I'm just wasting time showing you guys how to head cement. And that's it. That's the fly. Like I said, it's super simple again, but these little wisps around the head act as the legs, and this moves so much in the water column, right? Really slow retrieve. I'll get that in focus for you. Yeah, so just a nice thin body, and this tail will thin out once it's in the water, right? So super simple. I can tie up a ton of these in a short time, and they work extremely well. So again, like I was saying, I'll tie these in a, this is probably the most popular color I'll tie it in, is this olivey green. I do tie them in a chartreuse. I tie them in a brown as well. We have quite a few lakes here that are very tea stained colors, and the insects seem to take on the color of the substrate and of the color of the water. So quite often you'll see damsels and dragons in a tea stained lake that are a lot darker, a lot browner. Act as camouflaged in that water. So same with we have a lot of lakes in British Columbia, especially that have a lot of that sandy marl bottom. So I'll tie these in a real cream color to match that marl bottom. And yeah, it works really, really well. So, and again, a really simple fly to tie. There's not much to them. Like I said, pretty well one ingredient other than the eyes and the little bit of red wire, or whatever color wire, but they work very well. So alrighty, that was number 2. I might actually end up having time for all 4. We'll see. The last one's a big one. So
hi there, Rick. It's Pete Smith here.
yes.
Quick question. The make of the plastic eyes that you're using, and sort of different sizes, I guess.
Yes, you can get them in small, medium, and large. They're just hairline mono eyes.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that's all they are. This happens to be black. And then there was these are Wapsi. Right. So there's different brands. The one I really like, I couldn't find yesterday. I was putting all my flies that I'm tying, I put them into one Ziploc bag. So I know, okay, yeah, that's one fly, that's another. And I couldn't find the one that I really like. It's almost a like an iridescent green. They're not quite as green as this. They're more like almost like a see-through green, if you want to call it that. And that's the ones I really like using for it. But that being said, I don't know if I've actually noticed much of a difference between using the green, the iridescent green, or the black eyes on these catch rate wise. I think that's more of a fly tires thing, right? I don't, like I said, I've never done a study, but I don't think I've noticed a catch rate difference of the color of the eyes. So, but yeah, you can get these were a medium. You can get them in a small, extra small, small, medium, large, and extra large. So. So let's move on. Now this one is going to be, I don't know how many of you guys tropical fish, and I know these work really well as well up in places like Norway and Finland and places where you're chasing salmon. But I'm going to tie my version of a tropical shrimp. So basically, this is what I'm going to tie for you guys. I'm moving away from this cold ass Canada. We're moving to Mexico in January. So I'm learning to tie a lot of tropical flies. So, but this one here, like I said, I know these work really well for salmon, sea trout as well. So actually, I'm gonna change my vice head to the bigger one, so I'm not wrecking stuff. And I'm gonna have to zoom out a bit because it's gonna be too big. So just zoom out. There we go. So white thread, nano silk. Just gonna start it just behind the eye, come back.
What size hook, Rick?
Oh yeah, sorry guys. This is a TMC 811S stainless steel size 4. I do tie this in a size 4, 6, and 8. I like having some of the smaller ones. So I'm going to start off with some vicuna dubbing. So just this burnt orange vicuna dubbing. Any hairy, spiky orange dubbing that you like. I really like this vicuna for this. It really spikes up well. So I'm just going to come to the back, wax my thread. Like I said, this I just started using this vicuna dubbing a little while ago, and tell you for anything you want to be spiky, this stuff is awesome. So I'm just going to build up a bit of a bulge here. Nothing huge, but I definitely want a bit of a bulge. Nice and spiky and loose. And that basically all that was for is just to build a base for my eyes to be able to splay out. So now you can pick whatever colored eyes you like. There's green, there's orange, there's black, there's all kinds of different ones. I picked these up, believe it or not, on that Chinese Amazon, that AliExpress, and they came like in a week. They're really, actually, I'm quite impressed by them. I wish they would have the, can't remember what they're called. There's a certain manufacturer that makes them that they're already attached to each other. They're in a V. These are singular, but the singular ones, it's nice as well because you can make them as long or as short as you like, right? So, so now I'm going to be adding a hourglass eye to this side. So I want my eyes actually sticking up this way, not this way, right? Because this is going to be riding down and I want the eyes up. So I'm going to tie it like that. And I'm going to have them up like this, right? So like this down. So I'm just going to pick my length. I want to be a little bit longer than the curve of my hook. So probably about maybe 1.5 times the round of the eye past the eye of the bend of the hook. And I'm just going to tie that off to one side. A little long, bring that back. And then I'm gonna go right up against that dubbing ball just to help pull that out. And you can always give these a pull out anyway. Just come back just a little bit. Building bulk on this fly doesn't matter. It's gonna have all kinds of dubbing and stuff on it anyway. So I don't worry about building any bulk with the mono, with the eyes. Cut that off, get another one. About the same length. I like tying it in a little longer and then I'll pull it back. About there. Let's really crank those down. Give it a bit of a twist there. Okay, now I can pick whatever legs I want. I like using these barred silly legs for these, and I'll just grab a couple of them. And I'll tie them off about double the length, at least double the length of the eyes onto one side, just pinching it. And then I'll take them, come back. I'll take them over to the other side. Tie those in. And I'll just give those a quick rough cut. They don't have to be perfect same length, but these two on this side are definitely longer. So about there. And then I like tying in one of the silly legs, pearl silver, clear pearl silver. So I like tying in at least one of these. Sometimes I'll tie in two. It depends how thick, how dressed I want to make the fly. But again, and this one will be quite a bit longer. So I want it probably almost double as long as that is. And I'll just tie it into the one side. Another one, because I want one on each side. About there. Then usually what I do is I take a woman's hair clip and just take all this stuff and just hold it out of my way, just so it doesn't get in my way when I'm doing my dubbing and stuff. Come on. Just keeps it out of the way. So now it's just down to dubbing. So more of the Barracuda. Actually, I'm going to add my dumbbell eyes now. I just find I can get proportions better when I add my eyes first. So these are a small silver rounded. They're not nothing special, just a size small. I don't use the extra. Well, I do use the extra small, but I also use just a silver bead as well sometimes on these. The thing is with that though, it won't correct its ride, right? You want this to ride this way in the water, right? So just making sure I got this nice and well tied in. And then I'll go back to my tie-in point and I'll wax. Add some of this vicuna. Again, I want it spiky. I don't want a really super tight dub. I want this spiky. I want to be able to pull this out. So a little bit more on. Get a nice ball there. Get in front of it. Now I'm going to take my wherever I put it. Okay, I had it earlier, my popsicle stick with my Velcro. Oh, well, I'll use this one. And I'm just gonna brush this out. I want this as a kind of as a collar to hide in the rest of that tie-in and the start of those legs, those silly legs. I'd like to know where I put my I had it out because I was playing with it. Well, just so I can get in easier in between the hook, but that'll do. So now I'm going to move on to the vicuna, and don't ask me how to pronounce the name of it, the color name, but KS or whatever. That color. It's kind of a creamy white. Again, I tie these in several different styles. I tie this in a pink version as well. I'll tie this in a kind of a browny, light brown kind of color. But this one here is probably the one I tie the most, and I've had the best success down in the flats, down in Florida and Texas, New Orleans and Mexico, Cuba. So nice and thick, so I can pull this out. And just a tiny bit more. Be nice to know where I put that popsicle stick. Isn't it fun when you lose all your tools? So I give one more quick look for that popsicle stick because I know it works better. Find it under all this stuff. Ah, there it is. I just find I can get better into here with it. And it's got brand new Velcro on it, so. All righty. Give it a good whip finish. I'll use some crazy glue on the head here because I want it. I also will put a dab of crazy glue right into the dumbbell eye just to make sure that that doesn't spin on me. It's the worst thing is to have these dumbbell eyes spinning on you when you're fishing them. So what I use, I don't know if you guys have it over in the UK or not. I don't use regular crazy glue. I use Mercury Adhesives M300. So this is MT5 and this is the M300M. This is a little thicker. This is more like water. So it's crazy glue is what it is. It's just I like this one better, especially when I'm coating my buzzers and things like that, because it stays clear. I've noticed that some crazy glues will get that milkiness to them. So this stuff doesn't. I've tested this stuff now for about 5 years, and I've still got some chironomids, some buzzers that still haven't changed color. So that is it.
I haven't seen that stuff before, that type of glue.
Yeah, we get it. I get it here out of the hobby shops. I'm not sure if you can get it online. I would assume you could. But I get it out of the hobby shops, especially places that do like model planes and model trains and things like that. That's where I found that. So, and I've been, like I said, I've been using it for probably 5 or 6 years now, and it definitely doesn't discolor, especially if you've sometimes you leave your buzzer box open when you're in the boat or whatever, and you get that UV hitting it. And I find some of these crazy glues and stuff that we've been using in the past, like Loctite and a few of the others, will get that milkiness to it. I haven't found that this does. So there you go. There's your little shrimp pattern. You can manipulate these eyes. You can bend them out a bit if you want. You can bend them in. You can bend them up, down. But yeah, that's This is one I find works really, really well. Again, it's fairly simple tie. But these legs, that movement in these legs, and then having those two little hot spot eyes when this is going through the mud and through the sand, just like that, because that's the way it sits in the water. And using a sinking tip line or even a type 1 line and getting this to sit right down in the mud. Like you can have this sit right down on the sand and then pop, and it'll create that little, almost that little sand smoke, right? And then you can stop again and then pop. And the fish will just they go nuts for it. So I've caught a lot of fish, a lot of different species of fish as well. On this, I've caught anything from GTs down to bonefish to redfish to pretty well anything. Actually, even a cuda. I've caught barracuda on this, but this is probably one of my favorite for redfish. They really like this. And they really like that, like I said, letting it sit down in the sand and they're just popping it and just letting that just create that puff of sand, right? So that's number 3. You just give it a quick cleanup because number 4 is if we got time. How much time do we have left?
Unlimited, so you're okay.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Yep. The next one is a pretty in-depth fly. It probably takes usually about a half an hour for me to tie it. It's a intruder pattern that I use for steelhead and salmon and bull trout and also big rainbows. And when I mean big rainbows, I'm talking some of these coastal cutthroat rainbows that they're catching that are in that. I think we just saw one a couple of days ago. A guy named Pat Deemster just posted one for his clients. It was 22 pounds. So, all righty, let's get on. Like I said, this one's a bit more in depth. So. Probably, no, not probably. I'll have to back way out. So, because this fly, depending on how you tie it, you can tie this one anywhere from 4 to 8 inches long. I actually tie this one on a mini version of it on a trout trout intruder style, and use it for smaller trout as well in rivers for a swinging fly. It works amazingly well, but I don't have any of the small. Waddington shanks with me, so I'm going to use a bigger one. So I'm going to be using some Partridge double Waddingtons. This is a size 35 mil Waddington shank. Later on, once I'm done, I don't put them on until I'm finished. But I'd put on a something like that, a mustad ultra point or something similar, just a good hook, a trailing hook. In this case, I'm going to use some Fireline. Normally I'd use 20 pound. Again, I was just up at my buddy's cabin and we were tying a bunch of flies and I left my 20 there, but I'll use the 10 for now, just so you guys can see. So this will be for the trailer. Using black nano silk. Like I said, this is a bit more of these flies are a bit more in depth. I'm not sure how popular these intruder style flies are over in Europe, but they're extremely popular here for steelhead and for salmon and bull trout. Get lots of movement out of them, right? That's the big thing. So just going to take my braid and I want it sticking. I don't want it sticking past a mile. I just want it past the eye long enough that I'm able to change my hookup, right? So a lot of the rivers that we fish, will fish this in shallower waters and they'll bounce along the bottom and it'll dull the hook. So this makes it easy to just change the hook. You don't have to change the whole fly. right? So I want it to stick past enough that it can change the hook, but that's it. I don't want to go much more than that. All the way back, all the way forward. Flip this over. Now, sometimes what I'll do is I'll take these and I'll actually put them, I might as well do it just to show you that just it's a bit more secure. I put it through the eye and then back underneath. And then back forward again. This just ensures that that's not going to slip on us because this braid is a little on the slippery side, right? So just open turns just to get that in there. Yeah, this braid can be really slippery, so I just make sure I give it a really good coating of thread, nice and tight. That's why using a GSP, whether it's a Semperfly or any other product, as long as it's a good strong thread, you can crank down on this and that's never going to come out, right? If you want to be more secure, just put a little layer of crazy glue on that and you're good. So alrighty, so let us start. I'm going to make a little hot spot on the end here. So I'm going to use a little bit of uni stretch, the hot pink. This stuff really pops, right? So just want to come forward a bit. I usually build this in front of the split. So there's that little split there. That's where I'll start with my fly. It's right there. And I'm just going to build myself just a little hot spot here. You can do the hot spot in whatever color you think works on your body of water. I've found pink, orange, and green work the best. Again, and it depends on the species you're going after. In this case, since it's bigger, this would be more for steelhead. So steelhead colors, pinks, blues, blacks, purple sometimes. So just created my little hotspot. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a hackle feather. In this case, it's just a brown. And again, this is more to give it some texture than anything. You're not going to see much of it, but I'll come back. Now I'm going to wax my thread. And I'm going to add some of the pen spectra dubbing. And I'm going to go with, there's a reddish pinky kind of color. It's the number 358, this kind of one right here. I should probably bring my, let's see if I can bring this one for you guys, if that'll help. That might help a bit. So yeah, so I'm going to use a little bit of that 358. Sometimes I'll tie this one. It depends what I'm tying, what I'm tying for, but I'll tie this in a peacock color, peacock dubbing. And I'll tie it on a little bit more natural colors, not these bright pinks and purples and blues and greens that are pretty typical for your steelhead. Keeping this pattern fairly thin. The bulk will come at the front end, which will hold everything open. One more time. Now I can add dumbbell eyes if I want. It all depends on where I am tying this for. In this case, I'm I'm doing a trip in the summer here to a river in BC that's a little shallower, so I'm not gonna add any dumbbell eyes to it. I want this one a bit shallower. One last little bit. That'll do. Just gonna run my hackle up. Like I said, basically this is just gonna help hold it out again. Hold it from falling all the way down the rest of the body coming up. So this is a single intruder. A double intruder would have what I'm going to do now in the front would have also been done in the back. So the steps I'm going to do now, if you want to do a double intruder, which I use a lot of actually, whatever these steps are now that I'm coming, I would have done at the back first. So now I'm going to take my bag, go. Oh. Excuse me, just got to jump and grab something. Grab my fox medallions. So I'm going to take a little bit of blue fox and my imperial clip. I really like, I don't know about you guys, but I like these stoneful ones. But believe it or not, I probably use these dollar store, Dollar General, whatever magnet fridge clips. I use this one more than I use anything. So I'm just going to grab just a little bunch, maybe half an inch worth. I'm going to cut it off. So I've just cut off a bundle. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab this by the tips. And unfortunately, you guys won't be able to see this portion, but I'm going to grab it. And then I'm going to take my dubbing brush and I'm going to just brush this out on the table here. Just get rid of all that bulk, get rid of all that thick underfluff, underfur. So got rid of all that underfur. There's my little package. Just going to spread that out here on my table a bit and get it into my material clip. And I want this about an inch, inch and a half long. So that's ready. Just going to wax my thread. And I could have done a blue underbody on this one as well. I just find that this this red and orange, reddy orange kind of color really stands out. So get my spinner, put in my material. I pinch it and I'm going to just spread this out a bit. Give that a really good pinch, good spin, another good spin, let the go with a pinch. Bring that all up. Another one, bring it up. Then I take my dubbing brush. Just make sure this is all sticking out nicely. What I'm going to create here is just a little foxtail ball for the next stage to sit up against. I'm stroking it back every time. Tie that off. So all this, like I said, all this is doing is, it does add obviously a splash of color as well and a little bit of movement, but the main purpose of this is just to hold the next layers up and out. So just gonna just brush that out, make sure nothing's caught. There we go. All righty. So then what I like doing is I like putting on, this is locally harvested. I shot this myself last year. It's a black pheasant. Oh. So this is a black pheasant that we shot here last season. So I like getting these nice long fibers off the pheasant. Right. Might have some longer ones. Be nice to have a couple that are longer, but I've been tying a lot of there we go, a lot of intruder style patterns lately, so I've been using all the big ones up. So just stripping off all that underfluff. I'm gonna tie this in by the tip, just stroking back. Stroking everything back just to expose a little tie-in spot. I'm careful when I tie this stuff in with the nano silk. I have run into it where you end up cutting. So then I'll fold that tip back over itself. And if it doesn't look silly, it doesn't, I'll leave it in there. If sometimes it looks bad, but that little bit looks fine. So I'll leave that in there. And now just right up against that fox. Do a couple, I'll use this whole feather up. In there. Stroke that all back. Got any little stragglers, pull them back. Doesn't really matter, you're going to get covered anyway. Again, take the brush, just make sure they're all apart. Then what I do is I'll take some pink. This is a peacock herl that's been dyed pink, and this is peacock herl that's been dyed purple. They actually call it intruder spay hackle is what the actual name of it, but it's just peacock. That's what it is. So now I'm just going to take 2 or 3 at a time, and I'm going to lay them, and I want this to be as long as where my hook's going to be. So my hook's going to be a little, probably about here on the vise. So that's where I want this to go to, is about there. And I'll put 2 or 3 right in the top.
Is that fairly dry, Rick, or is that moist like a normal peacock?
No, it's actually pretty dry.
So it's been bleached then dyed.
Sorry?
Has it been bleached then dyed, is it?
Honestly, I don't know. I just know I picked this stuff up at the store. I would assume that's what they've done, but I just picked this up at the store many years ago, so I don't know what process they used for the coloring. Now, I do know that it doesn't bleach. I have noticed that. I've been using the same brand for quite a few years now, and none of my flies bleach. So like they don't lose the color. So again, I'm going to take another 2 or 3, put it on my side, about the same length, give or take. Just spread them out just a bit so they're not in one big bulge clump. Just give it a bit of a spread. That off, and then I'll go on to your side and do the same, another 3 over there. 1, 2, 3, there. And these don't have to be perfect to the length. but you want to be fairly close, right? So again, 3 more on your guys' side. Just get them and spread them out just a bit. Just for coverage. Like I said, I will tie these for trout. I'll use slightly different colors, and I will obviously make everything smaller. So now I'm going to take just a few of the purples, not as many. And I'll do the same thing, just to add a little bit more color and movement to there. To there. I don't go onto the bottom. And that actually comes out of the world of using dumbbell eyes. So, but I usually don't. I like leaving the bottom open, and that gives it a little bit of just gives a little bit of breathing as well for this fly. Same thing. Leave it nice and long.
Got a lot of colors in there, Rick, which drive fish mad.
Well, that's the one thing, but steelhead and salmon get very picky when they get in the rivers. I'm assuming that Atlantics would be the same. So yeah, this is most salmon stop feeding when they get into the river system. So this is more of a piss them off fly.
Yeah.
Right. So lots of colors, lots of movement. That's the big one, is lots of movement, right? So now I will take a piece of either mallard or teal or whatever you've got in the right color and size. So this is these are extra large. And again, I'll just separate this out and tie this in by the tip. Tied in, and then fold that back, tie over top of it. And that one's going to look silly, so I'll cut that off. Not going to leave that tip. Oh, and I just cut one of my, yeah. All righty. So now I'll make sure that all stays back. Give this a nice fold. I probably won't use all of this feather. We'll see. I just want it right in one in front of the other, right tight. Just make sure we're not trapping anything. If we trap, we can always pull it out with the dubbing brush after, but if you can avoid it now, obviously all the better. That one little bugger's not cooperating. One more. No, I'm not going to go one more. It's going to stem's too thick. So just leave that all there. Tie that off. Stroke that all back. Looks like garbage right now. It'll look good in a minute.
I reckon our Sea-Trout would go for that.
I would think so. That's one of the reasons I thought I'd tie it for you guys. That again, I would adjust the size because these are this is fairly large. I mean, by the time this is done, this is a good 4 inches. So, and then I'm going to take my brush again and just separate those blue fibers. And then I usually, this is when I'll take a closer look at it and see what it looks like. And then I'll make a decision whether I want to add any more. And I think I will. I'm going to add one more ingredient in this one. And that's just a little piece, just to finish off that head. Going to use a little piece of this. It's peacock black schalapin. So it's got that peacocky hue to it. It's got that really greeny, it's black, but it's got that green and blue hue. I don't know if it shows up on camera there, but
Yeah, I can see it.
yeah, so it's got that sheen to it, right? So about there. Same thing, obviously shiny side or that bluey green side facing out. Stroke it all back. 2 to 3 wraps usually is all you need. This is just to finish off that head. Let's just take a look what that looks like. I'll give it one more. Finishes off the head, adds a bit more movement.
There's going to be a phenomenal load of movement in that.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
gonna be a brilliant Sea-Trout fly, wouldn't it, Derek?
Yeah.
My brush. Where did I put my brush? There it
Those
is.
colours, like all the target colours, isn't it?
Just going to build up a bit of a head. I'll finish this head off with some UV resin when I'm done later. The nice thing that I really like about the intruder spey hackle that I showed that I've used in this is it's so thin, it's almost like a rhea. I don't know if you guys use rhea feathers over there, but we use a lot of rhea feathers in our spey flies. And it's almost like this is a cheap version of rhea. And the nice thing is if I find that I'm getting short takes, I can just bust this stuff off and it won't look weird because they're the same thickness all the way through. So I can nip off an end of this and you wouldn't even know that I did it, right? So that's the nice thing. If I'm just getting those short hits, that's what I'll do. So now, last things, just to take my fly out of there, and I'll put the hook on just so you guys can see, and that's the finished fly. I really do prefer using the heavier braid for a few reasons. One, in case you get into a bigger fish, and two, it's easier to do this as well. And as you'll see here, you see it kind of hangs down a little bit. With the heavier braid, this would stick into here, right? So, and I could have made this one a little bit shorter too if I wanted. Could have made it probably another ½ inch shorter, and it would sit in here more, right? But that's the finished little fly. And like I said, this will pulse really well in the water. It's got a little bit of sparkle in there. Sometimes I'll also throw a little bit of flash, just a couple of strips of flash in on the up top here, just a couple of strips, just to add a little bit more flash. But yeah, that's the finished little intruder pattern for steelhead. And like I said, I would change up the colors to more natural style browns and greens and tans, and make it about half this size if I was going just for trout in the rivers. So
what's the rear hook? Size 10?
the rear hook, no, this one is a size 4.
4.
Yeah, this one's a size 4. But again, this is for steelhead, right? So I do want a fairly large fly hook. So again, if I was tying this in a trout size, this would be half the size of the Waddington shank, half the length. This overall length would be about half. it'd be more natural colors, and I'd probably go with a size 10 or 12, 8 or 10 octopus trailing hook, right? So here's another version, just so you guys can see. It's pretty similar, but it is a slightly different version. It's got a little bit of this, little bit of blue, dyed blue pheasant tail and stuff in it, right? So, and it's got a little bit more of the schalopin in it. So just a little fuller on the front end, but very, very similar to the one I just tied, right? So, yeah. Ah,
That was Amherst pheasant, wasn't it?
yeah, sure. Yeah, that's what this is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll take these off and I'll just tie one in and one in, you know, just here and there, just to, again, movement and color, right?
Yeah.
I've always been a big proponent for movement, color, silhouette, but ever since I read Gordon van der Spey's book, it just really hit home again. Oh, I just make okay. I thought I turned you guys off. Yeah, ever since I read Gordon's book, it reiterated what I've always felt about in-fly fishing. I want color matters, but I want movement and I want silhouette. That's the two big ones, right? I want them to, when the fish, whether it's a trout, it doesn't really matter what it is, when they're looking up at it, I want that silhouette to look buggy. Oh, hey, there you go. My battery just died.
Gordon's bringing his second book out now.
Yes. I'm just going to go back to my other camera because my
Yeah.
regular camera just died. So come on. There you go. So yeah, no, I know Gordon's bringing his second book out. A really good buddy of mine up here in Edmonton, Gary Hankey. He wrote one of the chapters in that book. So
Has anybody got any questions for Rick? You've all been very quiet.
Yeah, that was a lovely fly, that, Rick. I think that would really
Yeah.
go well on our waters and for the big Sea-Trout.
yeah, like I said, it's adjusted to. I mean, it's a pretty standard intruder style fly here, but just adjust it to your waters, adjust it to the size of fly that you think would work for sea trout. I'm assuming this is going to be a little on the large side, but I might be wrong. I've never fished for sea trout, so
No, they'll take it that size.
yeah.
Well, the big ones will anyway.
Well, that's the ones you're after.
Yeah. Don't want the small ones.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll take that one back out and just put this one back in because that's the one we tied.
So they're getting fewer and fewer, long time apart now, the bigger fish.
Yeah, you know, it's the same with the salmon and steelhead here. We're having a lot of problems with the management of our salmon. And now we've got an absolute infestation of seals. And the seals are they're just devastating the salmon stocks, right? So yeah, I was a guide up in the Queen Charlotte Islands for 2 years, for 2 seasons. And back in the late 90s, we were still getting into the 50, 60, 70 pound king salmon or spring salmons. Now you're lucky if you can break 40, right? They're just not there anymore.
No, our salmon's been devastated in the UK and Scotland.
Yeah.
But I think that's more fish farms and other things going on, pollution.
Well, and we have that problem too. Fish farms, we just like that's the one thing I have to admit. They did put the foot down with the fish farms here and made them a little bit better. Some of them are now, they're forcing them to be land-based. So we don't have to worry as much about the pollution and the sea lice and all the other issues that come with the ocean-borne ones. But yeah, it seems to be a problem around the world, right? Anywhere there's salmon, there seems to be that problem.
Yeah.
So unless you go over to Kamchatka or go over to Russia or Mongolia, then it doesn't seem to be a problem over there because they don't have that overfishing issue and they're not trying to do the salmon farms and stuff. It's just natural and wild.
Yeah, I don't think the British are that welcome in Russia at the moment.
Yeah. I wouldn't go to Kamchatka either right now. I might go to Mongolia, but I wouldn't go to Kamchatka. So
Thanks
but,
for tonight, Rick.
you're very welcome, guys. Like I said, it was an honor to be asked to do this for you. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'd be more than happy to do it again. Do some different patterns, do some river patterns, or do some other more North American lake patterns. That's stuff that you guys don't use very often, but we do. We've been using, believe it or not, we've been using a lot more of the UK patterns here now, like apse worms and like blobs were never heard of until about 5 years ago over here, and boobies and fabs and I mean even other flies like just simple cormorants. I mean, nobody knew what the hell a cormorant was until probably 5 to 10 years ago, until Canada started doing a bit more of the competition fishing, and that those competition anglers brought it over. So yeah, it's I love the British. I love the European patterns. They're just so much different than ours. And I've been tying a ton of Cape McLarens and that kind of stuff, and they've been working so well in our lakes. So
Cape McLaren's a cracking fly, isn't it?
absolutely, yeah. Actually, probably one of my favorite, right? So, but
Yeah.
well, once again, like I said, thank you very much for having me. And like I said, I'm more than happy to fill in again if somebody cancels for you, or if not, if you want to book me in some other time, I'm always happy to help.
Magic,
Right.
thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks
Thank you very
everybody.
much, Rick.
Thank you.